Hello and welcome to Talking Really, and today we're going to carry on the story of my life after school. So this is after I've been to Thomas Delarue school, which I told you about last episode. I sort of started off the story by how I went to a boarding school, and life after school sort of began at the age of 16 and a bit, when I left in the summer of 78, and I had summer in my family home. As I sort of said last time, I did feel that being away for the majority of my teenage years didn't really help me as far as making friendships and also relationships with my family members who I hadn't really seen very much, except for holidays and things. So quite a lot of the time I was spent with my friends who I no longer had, because of the fact that we all lived in various parts of the country. I mean, my best friend came from Bristol, but that's beside the point. My other friends were from Manchester and Newcastle and all sorts of places around the country. So we never got to see each other after we left school. That's partly a lie, because when I got a car, I did go and see my ex-girlfriend, as it were. That was one of the only times that we actually met up at all, apart from 50 years later when I met up with my ex-girlfriend again in London, and just before I started doing vlogging. In fact, it was a trip up to the West Bank. I was actually isolated from everybody because obviously, with being in a boarding school 24/7, you tend to have your circle of friends with you at all times. So when you go home, there's nobody. And of course, making friends was something that I found very difficult, because I hadn't had to do it outside, in the outside world. So I had the able-bodied world, and I had my own little school world, which was totally different, because everybody was disabled and in some way or other. And for me, being back in the real world was quite difficult to handle, because I had no experience of how to make friends. We had Maggie Thatcher reigning the world, as it were, in the beginning of the 80s, and I spent most of the 80s unemployed, which is no surprise when you consider that we're going through the same thing 40 odd years later with a Tory government. And the attitudes towards disabled people is roughly the same as it was then. I left school, spent the summer, and then I had to think about going to a careers officer who sort of helped me through deciding on what I wanted to do, which I was told wouldn't be possible. I actually wanted to be a policeman to start with, but then obviously, because I'm physically not able, that was an idea that went out the window straight away. So I said I would like to be a journalist, because I enjoyed writing. I did actually enjoy it after leaving school. I did enjoy writing short stories, something like this. So I suggested that I might like to be a journalist and write for newspapers and things. And I was persuaded not to do it because of the hustle and bustle of being a news journalist, being able to go out and about and do on the site reporting, as it were. There was quite a lot of risk of me being pushed over and things like this, and not being able to survive. So that sort of went out the window. Essentially, what happened was I went with my mum to the Jobcentre. The guy there was a very old guy, and he was actually I remember him quite well, because he was old, but he was also very tall. So, but his job was to help disabled people. The guys basically sat there and told my mum that I should go home, sit at home, claim benefit, and not worry about working, because there was nothing really that he could help me with, and there was possibly nothing that I would be able to do. So for me, that was a negative attitude straight away. However, the careers advisor was very progressive. I can't remember his name, but he was very, very progressive in his attitude, and he actually got me onto a youth opportunities training scheme, and I went to work for Avon tyres, Avon rubber, Avon polymers, whichever company it was at the time. I'd done all of them. In actual fact, I was working in the office. I had a year. It was actually 6 months, but they extended it because I did such a good job in the first 6 months. Initially, I was there to produce some health and safety manuals, so I was able to research and then type them up and get them produced and properly, printed out. So that was my entire job, was to produce these manuals, and that's what I did every day. So I'm researching, typing, and typesetting, ready for printing. So health and safety, and there was a continuing theme through there, because I did actually go into other departments in the company. So Avon tyres, Avon rubber, Avon polymers are all separate companies, but they were all part of the same group. During that year, I had a day out every week to go to college, Trowbridge College, where I was with other people who were on the same course. They weren't, and some of them were working at the factory as well. Some of them were working in the factory as trainees. I remember one particular guy who was called John and Angela. They were boyfriend girlfriend, but Angela I worked with in the office. She was the office bod for my manager. My manager was called Brighton, and he had this beard. It was really big, and lovely guy, fantastic guy, and very fair and very funny as well. And he obviously had Angela as his PA, so she was like a trainee PA, and I was a trainee health and safety guy. So we worked together. We went out clubbing together, and basically John had a car. He had a Cortina Mark 16, Mark II 16E, 1600E, which whatever you call it. Anyway, it was a sporty model, and we used to hang around together. It was before I got my car the following year. My mum and dad bought me a little DAF 55, which was the one with the elastic band. It was famous for being a variable gearbox, automatic. Very good car, but it broke down in the end, and had to get rid of it. But for the first 6 months or so, I had to get around, and of course it was quite difficult because I had to go to work and get lifts into work and things like this, and I had several people take me to work, give me lifts and things, and lifts home. I think I enjoyed the job, but it wasn't permanent, and this was a problem I had when I left school. The fact is, I was a new entity, as it were, to the world of work, and I didn't particularly enjoy it that much, but it was something you had to do. After the year was up, I was using my careers advisor, and we sort of had to look around for a permanent job. Well, this was 1980, when Maggie Thatcher was just coming into power, and austerity was just beginning. So there was a lot of problems with unemployment growing. So I was very lucky to get a job, which was a job in a warehouse. I was working for a transport company doing the stock control in the warehouse. I worked with two very old guys who were near to retirement and just placed there because I suspect that they were near to retirement age, and they weren't interested in doing any other sort of work, so they farmed them off to this warehouse in the middle of nowhere. Quite literally, it was on an aerodrome in Wiltshire, and basically, it took you like nearly an hour to drive there from my house in Trowbridge, and on a winter day it was awful. Anyway, I spent my day in this very, very cold warehouse. They had a small shed for an office inside the warehouse, but we had deliveries every day from lorries that came in with stock for supermarkets and things like this, and I had to control the stock, as it were, so I had to keep records. I wasn't helped in any way whatsoever by these two guys who didn't make my job any easier. I have no idea why they did that, but they were very cliquey. I felt like I was intruding on their personal space, as it were. So I kept myself to myself in the end. The problem is that they weren't helping me, because every time we had a delivery of certain products, they're supposed to give me the figures for how many products there were, but they never always did it properly, and I always ended up having to go and check it out myself. And also I got into trouble one time because they had given me the wrong figures, which I taken as gospel, because you have to trust somebody. But they give me the wrong figures, and of course head office was saying, you've got this amount, and I was saying, well, no, we haven't, we've got this amount. And there was a big thing about that. They came and did an audit of everything, and I almost got into trouble for that, but luckily I managed to talk my way out of it, because everything else, all of the other stuff, I counted myself, so I knew that was correct. There was just this one line of products which I was given the figures for by these two guys, and they were the ones that were unloading the products from the lorries and loading up the products. But in the end, the relationship between us sort of disintegrated. By the end of it, I wasn't really that interested in the job. It was 10 months later, and these two guys, if you imagine going to work every day, and these two guys were ignoring you every day. They would say good morning and goodbye, and that was it. They would be there doing their own thing, sat in their own office with their own fire. I mean, they did invite me in there, but you felt very awkward about it. So I stayed in my own office, and there was no internet then, there was no mobile phones, there was no nothing. So it was a case of just really doing nothing at all day. I mean, I do remember towards the end, in the summer, going outside and sunbathing for hours on end, because there was nothing else to do. In the end, because of the contracts and everything like that, I was the one to get made redundant. Well, I suppose they shut down the warehouse, so retirement for them and redundancy for me. And I had no idea what I was going to do after that, and the careers advisor sort of disappeared off the scene, as it were. And of course, unemployment benefit was all I had to go on for 8 years. I had attempted to find jobs, and I had a social life by then. I got myself a CB radio and shoved it in my car, and I was talking to people who I knew, but weren't my friends. They were just people that I knew. But every night I would be out in my car, using my radio and talking to people, and doing meetups with other people in the local car parks. In 86, 85, 86, I suffered, when I was using my CB, I suffered an attack. A guy who was really, really drunk. He was 6'6", I think, as far as I know, but he was big, and he dragged me out of my vehicle. I was using CB radio, and he just came over and just started chatting to me. I had no idea, very naive about people, but he took a dislike to the radio. I mean, it would have happened anyway, whether I had a radio or not. I think he was looking for a fight with somebody. Well, he dragged me out the car, he started kicking and punching me, and it was luckily somebody had driven by who was a CB radio fan and had seen me in my car, seen me do it, seen him do it, and called the police, and the police turned up and arrested him. Luckily, he just got community service. I was left there from then onwards. I got taken home, and there was a big hoo-ha. This is what happens when you go out and you don't tell us where you are and everything else. My relationship with my family had gone to a point where it was at the lowest point ever, as far as relationships can be concerned. And I don't blame them, because it's a two-way street. I think that my inability to react and interact with other people, because of being isolated for so long, I have no idea what to do, how to react, and how to sort of build up a relationship with everybody. My friends were people that I knew of, but they weren't friends really. I just think, well, they were just like acquaintances, and that for me seems like a common theme throughout my life. It's the fact that friendships, I'm going to talk about friendships another time, but friendships are something that close friends. I don't have any close friends. I don't have any best mates, because I tend to find that they let you down. They have their own agendas. They want their own things, and they're using you sometimes is to get what they want. And I feel like I can't really trust anybody anymore, even from the very first time of being at school. Because even my best friend at school got a bit jealous one time and wanted to fight me, and I really didn't want to fight him at all, but he pushed me into the corner, so I had to give him a little slap, as it were. And of course that ruined our relationship from then on. And even though he apologised in the end for being silly about but I can't even remember why he was the way he was, jealous over something or other. I'm not sure, because we both were really good friends. We come up from junior school. We'd been together for our whole school life, and we were 15, 16 years old, and he just wanted to have an argument, I suppose, just wanted to fight. And then of course I found out my girlfriend, who was saying when we left school we didn't really have a relationship anymore, and I was being used, and in actual fact I know that for a fact, because when we met up sort of 25, 30 years later, she actually said to me, "I'm really sorry for what I did to you at school." Water under the bridge, as it were, but it doesn't really help you when you're trying to make friends. So I really haven't got any best buddies, because they tend to let you down. And for me, I think that I give more than I get, so I'm very loyal, and I tend to look after the interests of my friend, but I don't look after the interests of me, and I let people walk all over me. And as you'll see from a later episode, a business partner actually left me with £20,000 worth of debt. Anyway, more on that in another episode. We're up to 1988 at the moment, when I'm still unemployed. But during that time I did run a little mobile disco. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now, because that is pretty much everything up until that point. So come back again and you can hear the next episode. Bye for now.